breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Welcome inside a freshly pressed. Today is Tuesday, the 23rd of October, and to join us in newspaper analysis this morning, we've got a full panel of analysts. Funmi Odunde is in the studio. Good morning, Funmi.
Good morning.
Great to have you here. We've got Ayo returning for a second day running. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Folu.
Welcome. And we've got Mr. Fred Allison in the studio. Good morning. Find them up on their respective Twitter handles at Funmi Odunde, at Esho1, and at FB Allison. Now we're going to delve into the newspaper headlines. Do remember that you can comment, and we encourage you to do that by using the hashtag FreshlyPress981 up on Twitter. You can also send us our WhatsApp messages to 0809 4440981 or watch our lovely faces in the studio as we live stream on our YouTube platform. But Valentine's going to take us through the first set of stories.
The first story is taken from Guardian newspaper. Court awards 50 million naira to Charly Boy in judgment against police, and this is with regards to the 2017 altercation between the group he led and the police as well. Just that when they were protesting Buhari's prolonged absence out of the country when he was going on his medical vacation in the United Kingdom. Funmi, please take us through this.
Okay, so it is very refreshing with all the times that we have to discuss and analyze the ills of the judiciary to be able to say that despite the challenges that our judicial system has, it does work. And it's particularly important that someone in his position, and I mean Charly Boy, would pursue this. Yes. Because a lot of times we happen to let this go with this attitude of thank God you even came out alive and let it go. But for somebody who has taken up the kind of position that he has as an activist and to whom people are looking up to, it is important that he does take this kind of step, seek redress in the manner that is available to him by law. And so yes, he filed this fundamental rights action against the Nigerian police for that. And the police responded because in the story it says that in his judgment, Justice Ohu held that the defense put up by the police that miscreants invaded and stormed the premises of the protest, which was why they had to come in with their canisters, tear gas, and police dogs. There was no evidence of that. There was no evidence that the protest was not peaceful. And particularly one major part that I want to focus on this morning was that he said that even if there were miscreants, the police did not have to exercise uncommon aggression. And the level of force is always very important in situations. Recently, have had to do some series of case reviews over policemen on trial. And the defense always put forth that the policemen were doing our jobs, like it was reasonable force. So the question of reasonable force is always a question. Assuming this person was even breaking the law,
how do you find
how
out?
do you arrest the situation in that situation?
Okay.
Must you use the highest level of force that either results in death or
Serious
injuries? Yes. So that is a big question. Although he didn't believe them when they said it was miscreants, but assuming that miscreants had even come to hijack the protest, the level of force, and that goes back to the training that we need to give our armed forces in dealing with even riots and situations. What level of force is required? What level of force should be used to arrest the situation?
I like that you mentioned that, and in many cases we find that sometimes the force or some members of the force would assume or anticipate certain actions and say, oh, they look like they are coming to cause trouble, so we now decided to be proactive to act in a certain way. So how do you know the difference between somebody who's intending to foment violence and somebody who's protesting peacefully?
It's not an action. Intent is not action.
Intent is not until I actually act it out. You really shouldn't take any step against it.
So now 50 million has been awarded. The problem now is this taxpayers' money. Are there going to be repercussions to those that perpetrated this kind of act on him? Because it's just one thing for you to have money going away from the purse of the police, which is going to be put back anyway by taxpayers' money. There has to be some form of repercussions to the person or the person.
So punitive measures, you're saying,
exactly.
against the police officers involved?
Exactly.
And that will be an internal disciplinary issue within the police.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying I understand that. And it's part of making sure the police itself hold its officers accountable for their individual actions.
All right, thank you very much for me for that one, and Ayo for chipping in. Moving on to Punch now for this next story. Those who feel they have another country are free to go. That's what our president, Muhammad Buhari, is saying. He said this on Monday when they said the Nigerians who felt like they had another country outside Nigeria might choose to go. He made this statement through his special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Funmi Odunde, quoting the second line of the national pledge. Said he's enjoining Nigerians to remain faithful and loyal to the country in all their dealings, and citing examples of the late Major General Tunde Diabo, and described him as a very rare example of what loyalty to the fatherland and to a superior should be. Ayo, take us through this, please.
Albeit this sounds kind of harsh, it's kind of true, because the truth is that everybody has freedom. Okay, if you have dual citizenship, you have the right to go to any country you want to go. What's funny here is this particular statement is being reiterated at a particular place, Kwara State, and these are still allegations. Even though we've seen a couple of pictures and the likes on the internet of Bukola Saraki having dual citizenship with the UK, it's not verified, so we can't say for sure. Is it a kind of jab by the presidency, because we know that the governorship or the governor at the moment has defected to the PDP, and this is a rally in which they were trying to fortify the strength of the APC in the time.
Yeah, but I mean, taking it away a little bit, just shifting partisan sentimentality, from this story, and looking at it objectively with Nigerians and the kind of attitude we push forward or used to address situations in the country and how we speak generally. You hear a lot of Nigerians expressing the same sentiment every single day, acting as if this country does not belong to us, we're actually doing you a favor to be here. Don't you think this might be leaning towards that thought?
So here's the thing, most of the Nigerians that complain about this don't even have a passport in the first place, so they probably don't even have another citizenship. I think this guy,
that's subjective.
No. Do you know the percentage of people that have? We were talking about it on air the last time, that how many people actually travel as a citizen.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the mass majority. They don't even have a passport in the first place, so they can't even. They don't have dual citizenship. It's the elites that have that luxury of having their kids born abroad and the likes.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: those that we've also discussed this in the past, in which we have a case in which in countries like China. You can only hold one passport. Russia and the likes, you can only hold one passport, and even especially if you're going into if you're going into politics, you need to prove that you're loyal to a country. And in Nigeria, dual citizenship is allowed, which is okay because the US and other countries also have that. The first world countries have that, but it begs the fact that maybe your loyalty will not be entirely to the country in which you are. And at the end of the day, it's a problem of the elite, not the total mass.
So in that case, just before we move on for time reasons, do you think that it perhaps could be made a condition of service to this country, that if you are going to serve as a minister, if you are going to serve as a commissioner, if you're going to serve in government, that you be required to have only a Nigerian citizenship?
I really think that we're getting to that stage in which we need to make that decision, because these are the people that make the decision for the vast majority that don't have an option. If it was a country in which a lot of people had options, it's understandable, but when majority don't, I think that should be it.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Our next story comes from Premium Times newspaper. The headline reads, SARS reforms begin sitting, receives 27 complaints. The presidential panel on the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS reforms for the North Central Zone, according to this report, has received 27 complaints and will hold public sitting on the complaints from October 22nd to the 25th of October. According to Mr. Ojukwu, that's Mr. Tony Ojukwu, the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, he said the essence is to increase access to the services of the Commission and to seek accountability where there's evidence to indicate that officers or officials of SARS have been involved in acts amounting to human rights violation. Fred, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a welcome development. It's pointing to transparency in a way to look at the allegations from complaints and also the SARS officials that have been alleged, with this assault or whatever the complaints are. I like what is stated in the article. What they're doing actually is reviewing it based on best practices of human rights standards. It's the reviews are going to be, presented to the government and then to the SARS, to the police force in general, and they will evaluate the validity of SARS as a whole. The police force in the article also come back and say they are already looking towards moving the police force to be an intelligent driven organization, which will mean that there will be less assaults or less pointings towards violations of human rights violations.
So if you say police should be, I mean, they're planning to direct police to become an intelligence-driven organization. Yes. I would ask also, what has it been all this while? Because we understand that issues of security, I mean, you go at it from an intelligence...
You have to ask.
Somebody has to ask.
There are multiple, I guess there are multiple strategies for getting to the facts. Are you using force to get the facts, or are you, intuitively and intelligently getting to the source of what's evidence or what's facts in the case? So I guess they're moving. I like this. Their mindset is that they're moving towards being more intelligent driven, and this is also looking at what's the violation of human rights that is involved in their practice, on the daily practice. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Fred, and we hope this, gets results soon. From New Telegraph, we'll take this next story. CBN raises minimum capital for microfinance banks. After months of speculation that it was going to make this move, the Central Bank of Nigeria yesterday announced an increase in the minimum capital requirement for microfinance banks in the country. They placed them in three categories. One, the unit MFBs and state MFBs, and another one actually, stating it as national MFBs. They said they put caps, minimum caps on each one of them, and we understand the purview to which each operates. They said the MFBs with national license operate in all the states of the federation, while the microfinance banks with state license operate within the state and are allowed to have cash centers within the state. However, the bulk of the microfinance banks we have in this country are units microfinance banks that cannot have cash centers besides the main office. When you look at the figures that are placed here as minimum capital, do you think most of these unit MFBs can afford them? And if they cannot, in this case, I mean, does it affect those who've been in existence, who are operational, or is just limited to those who are about to get into business?
So if you're coming in, you have to abide by the new standards. If you're operating already, you have 6 months to April 1st to take into account of this new
April 1st, 2020.
2020.
Okay.
To take into account this new policies.
Yes.
If you look at you look at the breakdown of this whole microfinance sector, there's supposed to be about 900 of them, which 80% of them are the unit operators, as you said, 20 million capital, paid up capital before this new policy. Now they're 200 million, and then state 100 million is now 1 billion, and then 2 billion is now 5 billion. Then the breakdown is that if 80% of this microfinance, which equates to 700 microfinance banks, it comes to about 14 billion, right? So 14 billion is like it's like what, 7 of the, it was old, there was 7 of the old requirement
times 7.
Yeah. So then it's as you said, it's going to be challenging to go from 20 million to 200 million. But I guess the case that's been made here is, like the article says, that 154 licenses have been revoked. That equates to 17%. And then the issues around what's the operating of this microfinance is that they're inside abuse, poor governance, inadequate capital bases.
Yes.
So this is like an answer to like making the microfinance sector stronger. And then predominantly of our businesses are small, medium, so this is a source of where they will go get,
Thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you. Let's stabilize that. We've got a few messages coming through. Am I from Akoka says, I'm submitting that one thing that's becoming a signature of the Nigerian police force are their rogue actions. We keep seeing the top echelon distancing themselves from the actions of the rank and file. Very true, Am I? Thank you for sending that message in. Meanwhile, Henry says, if only my parents' employer had sent them on cross-posting a year earlier, I would have been like my other siblings with citizenship of another country. And by this morning, I might have been packing my bags, thumping my chest, and waving goodbye. I just want a safer, better country. Is that too much to ask for, Mr. President? That's what he puts across there. We've also got messages coming in on our live stream. Henry Aluede sends out this very strong message with a lot of vitriol. He's quite angry here. It says the judiciary is a scam. How can you award Charly Boy 50 million and so many people are in prison for years for wrong reasons and they get nothing? I wish these fees were taken from the judiciary budget. Henry, it's not as simple as that. I know Funmi wants to comment.
This is a fundamental rights action. Criminal actions, those in prisons. And really, the common man that approach the judiciary, they might not make the news because they're not Charly Boy. But a lot of these judgments are given every single day. They just do not make the news.
Absolutely. And they're given to people who pursue them. That's another issue as
Exactly.
well. Mudukwe Sanda up on WhatsApp as well says, if that rule about dual citizenship was in place, we would have missed out on the opportunity to imbibe knowledge from other countries through individuals like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Perhaps, you never know. Or perhaps we would have had a much stronger country because we would have been forced to develop on our own. But we've got to move on to the next set of stories. Up next, let us talk about the Senate screening Buhari's FCSC nominees. The Punch newspaper is where we've taken this story from, and you'll find it there at the full details right there. But essentially, the Senate on Monday screened the president's nominees for chairman and commissioners of the Federal Civil Service Commission. Now, during this exercise, members of the Committee on Establishment and Public Service asked them to explain the fake recruitment scandal that had rocked the service in 2012. Now, in this scandal, it was a serious issue because the FCSC is the executive body that has the authority to appoint, transfer, discipline and sack all federal civil servants. And it was discovered that over 80 applicants were reported to have paid as much as 250,000 naira to secure appointments, some of which turned out to be fake. I mean, it's quite scandalous stuff, really. So, Ayo, please take us through this.
First of all, I want to say that the president is just appointed Dr. Bello Ngawa, who is from Katsina State, and very soon some people will say again this is nepotism. I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, but the good thing is that amongst the commissioners, we have people from Niger State, Oyo State, Kebbi State, Borno State, Anambra. So it goes across board. But one interesting part about this is they went back to 2012 when that scandal happened, and where 250, a lot of the applicants paid 250,000, and most of them as high as the fingers were pointed as high as the commissioners at the time. And investigation was done 2012. This is 2018, and we're yet to have an official report.
Yes.
Because Polka described that the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Commission.
Yes, the ICPC.
Has yet to formalize the report, has yet to submit it to them. And unfortunately, then there was also the seal of the FCSC. One question I would like to ask, and I'll throw this to the general public out there. I don't know if there's anybody out there that has gotten a job with the federal service without knowing somebody inside. Just go to the website or something and apply and get a job. Please tweet at me. I would like to see if that is possible in the Nigerian federal service as of today. That's a very good question, because the way it looks, for you to get a job, whether it's federal service, whether it's state service or local service, you need to know somebody that knows somebody that is probably a senator or is a commissioner or something. And this still breeds this nepotism that we keep talking about, because we don't get the best minds in the ministries. We were talking yesterday about how majority of the people in the civil service, probably, let me say majority, a lot of people in the civil service don't do anything. They want an increase in salary and all that. If we could get the best minds there, you'll be surprised the kind of reforms that we can have. Also, the ICPC also has to do better. Give us a proper report. Let prosecutions be done. And 3 of the people that are also being nominated here, the Ibrahim Mohammed, Professor Aminu Shedu, and Simon Etem. 3 of them were actually there before, and they made mention of the fact that the problem probably came from the chairman at the time because he interfered with the recruitment process.
You know, I find that very interesting because it feels a bit scapegoat-like.
Yeah.
It's it's very convenient to just point at one person and say,
Yeah.
that's that guy.
And,
That guy.
that
guy did it. It wasn't us.
And it's so convenient, it's just so convenient to say because you're the one that has the mic at the point in time. But then at the same time, you also think of the fact that there should be an HR department that should be in total control of recruitment, and that's what I'm talking about. That we need to step forward. We need to do something better in the country generally. The civil service is to be the pride of the nation at the time. If you're working for the civil service, you're at the height, the pinnacle of employment. But now it looks as though it's the rejected ones that know someone that gets employment. And that's sad.
Thank you very much for that, Ayo. We move on. Fumi, I'm coming to you next from the Premium Times. The Supreme Court has nullified the Rivers APC Congress from the Premium Times, and there's been a bit of berating going on there. Apparently, there's berating that goes on between the courts continuously. So essentially, on Monday, the Apex Court described the Congress, the conduct of the Congress as a serious violation of a court order. This is because there had been a lower court ruling where the High Court had essentially said said that they should not carry on. They did. This is because an application was then made to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal went ahead, but the Supreme Court has said that was in violation of an existing court order. The Appeal Court should never have entertained this. But please take us through the story.
Okay, so the APC Congress in Rivers State, a few days to the Congress, some aggrieved members applied expertise to the court, collected an order, says don't conduct this Congress. They shifted the Congress, but still conducted it. So the parties came back and said, please nullify the Congress that was conducted because it was done in violation of a court order. The High Court did so. The APC appealed to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal set aside that, and they appealed to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, like you said, berated the Court of Appeal and said it is a serious matter for anyone to flout a court order, and since they have done so, any action that they've taken in respect of that is a nullity. Of course, it's the rule of law is something that we seem to struggle with in recent times, violating of court orders and all of that, and it's important that the Supreme Court does make a serious stand on this. But the other side of it that I want to look at is the fact that I'm a bit concerned about how this affects the political parties, because this is the same congresses that would have conducted the people elected from these congresses are people that would have conducted the primaries.
This is very true.
That were conducted by the parties, and it's important. I remember sometime in September, I think the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court barred judges from giving experte orders preventing for political cases, and it's important because you have to understand that for the political parties themselves, their actions are time bound, because INEC gives them deadlines and all of that. So when they've made plans, made preparations to do a particular Congress, there must be a way to balance the right of aggrieved members of the party to approach the court, as well as the right of the political party, saying how much, minus the cost. It's very expensive to conduct these things, but aside from the cost, they also have time frames within which they must do these things to be able to participate. I mean, look at what happened to Zafara list that APC is saying, INEC is saying it's not so there must be a way to balance these things, and that is my main concern here.
All right, thank you very much for that, Fumi. Fred, I'm going to come to you now to talk about gold. It's time to talk about gold reserve. So the Vanguard newspaper announces the federal government has established its first gold reserve scheme and has issued their first gold refining license. This is all part of the economic diversification program, and a lot of this was announced by Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Oduma, who said that it's also part of the implementation of the economic recovery and growth plan. Remember, there were going to be focus groups that were going to be helping us move forward in this, and the license has been granted, or the first gold refining license has actually been issued to a company called Kian Smith Limited, which was one of the companies that participated in one of the labs. So it feels very exciting. A lot of things have been happening in the mining sector, but let's go over to you. What are your thoughts on this, Fred?
First of all, I want to say congratulations to Mary, actually. She's the founder of Kian Smith.
Nice.
I personally know her.
Yeah,
and she's
good.
into this.
So we all know gold
money.
people. I like that. We're all involved. Okay.
Interestingly, she introduced me to gold mining or gold rights in Malaysia. So I also have listening up. I haven't followed up. She's been on this for like.
We're following up with you.
She's been on this for several years, and I'm glad that she's serious-minded. But okay, so speaking to this, right? So this, the Economic Recovery Growth Plan was established, or was instituted for 6 weeks, as you said, in March 13. Focus on getting us to 7% growth in 2020. Looking at agri, transportation, power, manufacturing, solid mineral focus. So I like the fact that they're looking at areas in which they can increase growth for the country, job creation, and then be competitive globally and compete globally. So when you look at gold, gold is a mineral that obviously, as soon as it's obtained, has value anywhere, right? And it's like it's a low-hanging fruit in which you can start adding value to our economy. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing all around.
All right, thank you very, very much for that. Very quickly, let's move on for me. Nigeria gas reserves to production ratio stagnate at 155 years. But still, it's not as bad as it seems to sound, because we still have some of the largest untapped oil reserves across the entire Africa. Not just oil, but also our undiscovered gas potential is about 600 trillion cubic feet. I mean, that's massive.
That's very massive. So our oil reserves to production ratio is about 42 years, and that's not surprising. They've been warning us for a while now that your oil is reducing, but apparently we still have something to rely on: gas. Yeah, and our gas reserves to production ratio is 155 years. But I do say that people in this particular industry have repeatedly said that the part of the reasons that we do not have enough investment in gas is because of the state of our laws, and still yet we are finding it difficult to pass our PIGB. It will. So that until we take those kind of actions, we're really not going to. I mean, the story talks about NNPC getting a lot of unconventional financing and all of that, but
which is worrying, because we also don't know any of the details of the third-party financing.
And we're talking about $3.7 billion gotten from third-party microfinancing and all of that. But if you look at it, a lot of it is still being spent on oil and not gas. So how they tie this to the story, I don't know, but it's still a lot. And until we go back and do what is necessary in respect of our laws, we will not get the benefits of what we have in respect of gas.
Thank you for me. Minutes to spare. Let's just touch on the last story, the NHIS scandal. Despite its suspension, Yusuf forcefully entered the office on Monday with police support. Apparently, his colleagues were tear-gassed. I mean, this is outrageous by any stretch of any imagination.
You remember when we say we are principalities in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you see, it's a sad story, because this is just the height of impunity. The funniest thing about the story, you see here that they said the workers and the staff union actually stood outside with some security people.
Yes.
And then he tear-gassed everybody and went in and it just bulldozed everybody in.
So basically assaulted people with the help of the Nigerian police, as far as we understand it.
Perhaps with the help of the president, because the president stated him at the time. No, here's the thing. I've always said, I know that you're still innocent until proven guilty, but there was an investigation going on. You expect that at that particular time, you just put him aside for a while. They said there was mix-up in the case, so that's why he was reinstated. And I think he's beginning to get power, feeling like he has a backing. If he states here, it says that he has a backing of the president, and that's the reason why he's doing this. It's sad.
Very, very sad. We certainly hope that there will be some repercussion for such violent action against not just his colleagues, but just other innocent citizens. But that's all the time we've got this morning for Freshly Pressed. I do really wish we had more. Thank you to Funmi Odunde for coming in this morning. Find her up on Twitter of that same name, at Funmi Odunde. Yes, it is spelled as it sounds.
Yep.
And you can find Ayo Esho up as Esho1, and you can find Fred Allison as FB Allison up on Twitter.
Coming up next, Lagos, we talk entertainment inside of the grapevine, and that is at 8:15. Join us on Twitter at Smooth981FM with the hashtag Grapevine981.
Good morning.
Let's start talking about gold.